By practicing mindfulness in a resolute way, what will you become? How will mindfulness impact your health, happiness, self-awareness, and thinking? We will find out on this episode, which is the first of 7 podcasts in this series I call Mindfulness and Awakening, Reduce Stress, and Find Fulfillment. On a personal level, how has mindfulness awakened me? To begin with, I wouldn't be creating this podcast series without mindfulness. Allowing myself to be vulnerable was not something I would have done 3 years ago. While I have opened up myself to scrutiny and criticism and risk in the past, I wasn't capable of doing it anymore. 36 months ago, I had grown quite comfortable with my safe spot on the couch, even though I was underachieving and depressed. Yet here I am today, equipped to handle just about anything. 3 years ago, I was controlled by my emotions, controlled by the mechanisms of PTSD. For me, emotional intelligence just didn't exist. I always seemed to have some unhealthy emotional fire burning out of control. Much of the emotion stemmed from hypervigilance, the ongoing assessment of potential threats to myself and the people I love. And hypervigilance leads to paranoia and codependency, and those things lead to being reactionary. Reacting is an impulse, an emotional response that wears you down and is sometimes ongoing, lasting days, weeks, months. On the other hand, acting is what happens when you are mindful. Your responses are controlled and consciously objective. Furthermore, when you have PTSD, are in a codependent relationship, and reactive, you open yourself up to being manipulated, abused, and/or neglected. You give away your independence, you become easy to control, and you are anxious and depressed most of the time. And I will stop there because engaging in the details of my existence 3 years ago is not healthy or useful or mindful, and I am currently on stable ground and want to stay there. Now, after 3 years, I have practiced mindfulness to the point where it typically activates when required. It is nearly involuntary in the way that it protects me. My mind just goes to it because it is now a part of my state of being. Other times it takes work to get to mindfulness. After being pulled into turmoil, I fall into my old bad habit of unhealthy discourse as my emotions get the better of me. But I realize rather quickly the unhealthy engagement is on top of me, and the emotional suffocation might last 30 minutes. It might take a day, in some cases, for me to recognize that I have relapsed to a dark place. Eventually, actively, I take the turmoil and the attached emotions, examine it in a rational way, and then release it into the air. It becomes a cloud hovering before it moves into the distance, and then I go to something that actually has promise, because spiking emotions and anxiety have none. I might mindfully examine the atmosphere of a trail hike, or the form and function of exercise, or the details of my work or a chore, or the steady hand of a healthy relationship that provides useful, engaging conversation. I might prepare and eat a meal, or rest, all mindfully. I can get to those places now, with mindfulness. I sleep better, I live better, I'm a better father, friend, and family member. I am more productive, and I am less anxious and depressed. And my PTSD is on pause most of the time. I'm not perfect. I make lots of mistakes. But I think most of the people in my life would agree that I am in a healthy place these days. My good health started with a relationship separation, then hiking, backpacking, and trail running, and then setting a goal of competing in an ultramarathon, which is a marathon that is longer than the traditional 26.2 miles. But my health really took off in a positive direction when I added mindfulness to the mix. It created space from pain, brought out the independent me that had gone missing for years, and put my life in motion where it was once stagnant. That is how mindfulness awakened me. You ready to get started? Something important. The roots of mindfulness are ancient and based on Eastern religions and philosophies such as Buddhism and Hinduism. However, reducing the view of mindfulness to only Eastern religions would be a mistake, because facets of mindfulness practice can also be found in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Furthermore, belief in a god or the participation in a religion is not required to practice mindfulness. In other words, mindfulness is not in conflict with any religion or lack of religion. Some find mindfulness to be spiritual and sourced from a divine place, while others, atheists, agnostics, and the non-religious, find mindfulness compatible with science and modern evidence-based approaches to improving mental health. If you are not religious, keep an open mind to the idea that there is virtue in some religious teachings, even if organized religion or the belief in a god is not your cup of tea. If you are religious, keep in mind that as a practitioner of mindfulness, you will be joining a well-rounded community of people with many different beliefs, which provides a chance to open doors, share your experiences, and evolve your way of thinking, or help others evolve. Finally, faith is definitely required. Not religious faith in a god, but faith in mindfulness itself. Mindfulness does not land in your lap as a gift. It requires practice and patience to get to meaningful results. Until those come, you will need faith. The roots of mindfulness do come from Buddhism, which is a belief system that is more than 2,000 years old. Ancient scriptures hold Buddha's teachings, and one verse begins with the following idea: mindfulness is the way to enlightenment. Siddhartha Gautama, which most people now simply call the Buddha, spent most of his life spreading his teachings throughout northern India between the 6th and 4th century BCE. The Buddha never made the claim that he was a prophet or a deity, as many speculate, and he did not claim to be inspired by a god or an external power. But he did find enlightenment, a state of inner peace and wisdom through meditation, and used it to gain insight into the meaning of life and the cause of suffering. When asked if he was a god or a man, he said no to both, instead saying, "I am awake." Just before he died, he made an appeal to humanity to be mindful because it was the only way to find enlightenment. While most philosophical minds claim that enlightenment came through an accumulation of ideas, the Buddha believed that humankind could only achieve enlightenment through being mindful of every personal experience. The intention of the Buddha was to teach humans a practical way to deal with suffering by letting go of attachments that society en masse wholeheartedly clutch onto daily, such as comfort, desire, pleasure, and the past. These things eventually fade into nothingness. We free the heart when we let go of any attachment that will cause us suffering in the end, because we release all illusions that bind us to unhappiness. Within the process, we become more aware of ourselves and realistic about life, which allows us to attain peace. In order to liberate ourselves from desire, pleasure, comfort, and the past, to find peace, we need to understand our own minds. Therefore, the importance of meditation comes into play, which is a universal idea that has helped people find peace well before the Buddha. Inside of meditation, we find calmness, and when we detach ourselves from the material world and the cry of the emotions that attach themselves to it, we become mindful. This mindfulness brings tranquility, insight, and fosters empathy, compassion, friendship, and love. The Buddha placed mindfulness practice at the heart of his teachings and provided humankind with his 4 noble truths, which provide the pillars of mindfulness, and they are the following. All existence is suffering. If you've lived a day, you know this. The cause of suffering is cravings. The end of suffering comes with the end of cravings. A noble path leads to the end of cravings, hence the end of suffering. This podcast uses these notions of mindfulness to construct a path for you to maneuver through modern society. Using the 4 noble truths as an outline for today's world, these truths look more like the following. Modern life is full of challenges because society drives us to want more and feel envy, which undermines our well-being. The loss of our well-being is the result of wishing our lives were different, as we pointlessly cling to what we do not and cannot obtain, and do not even need. Through mindfulness, we can center our well-being inside of ourselves instead of aligning it with the material world, which makes us much less susceptible to attacks from external circumstances. Therefore, we make our own choices about our life's path, and when challenges come into our lives, we face them with sound awareness. Separating mindfulness into its beneficial parts completely misses the point of mindfulness, but it is possible to do it in order to motivate people to give the practice a shot. While the benefits of mindfulness are intrinsic, researchers have studied the practice a good bit to acquire its tangible benefits. Furthermore, the pioneer of modern mindfulness, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, a practitioner of meditation, a teacher, and a writer, wrote with candor that you might not like mindfulness practice, but you will certainly reap the benefits of becoming mindful. It is true that some people look at mindfulness as a chore, so there is a very good chance you will as well. Therefore, motivation is often required to get people moving in the right direction and to maintain momentum while on the path. Kabat-Zinn's work in the 1970s now receives the support of a myriad of scientific studies that show mindfulness practices' ability to enhance emotional, mental, and physical health. Research proves that mindfulness is successful in reducing stress and anxiety, which researchers attribute to a very real reduction in the body's level of cortisol, the human stress hormone. Stress erodes the performance of the body's natural immune system, which negatively influences health. Therefore, mindfulness improves immunity. The benefits of improved immunity and the reduction of cortisol include relief from stress, anxiety, depression, pain, and insomnia. It can even break the cycles of addiction. You might be skeptical that mindfulness reduces pain, but consider the following. The normal response to pain is to block it out or combat it, and both ways drain our energy and do little to relieve the discomfort. Mindfulness teaches us to accept the pain and separate it from an emotional response, and pain that isn't reinforced by emotions weakens it. Furthermore, mindfulness practice removes our lives from autopilot and opens a new way of living that increases attentiveness, confidence, self-awareness, decisiveness, and keeps us grounded. Through mindfulness, we learn a more effective way to deal with life's hazards, and we get more enjoyment from the smallest pleasures in our lives. In essence, we find the key to unlocking our full potential. When we adopt mindfulness as a practice, its advantages radiate out into the world, making everyone around us healthier as well. As we become more peaceful and fit, all aspects of our lives are rewarded. In the coming episodes, you will become all the following as you practice mindfulness in a determined way. Your health will improve because mindfulness reduces anxiety, stress, and pain. You will become more resilient to fatigue because your heart and circulatory health will improve, and you will gain a stronger immune system. You will find relief from depression, and you will gain control over addictions and self-destructive behavior. You will also sleep better. You will become happier because your self-esteem will improve, and you will gain more confidence. You will find more satisfaction at work, improve your focus on achieving goals, and reach your full potential. You will form better relationships, and even your leisure activities will become more enjoyable. Your self-awareness will increase, which manifests into better self-knowledge and self-reliance. You will free yourself from autopilot responses and become a master of your emotions, which improves your emotional intelligence. You'll become a better communicator, so you will become a more effective public speaker. Your listening skills will improve, and your empathy will increase. You will also become more resilient to adversity. Your overall thinking will improve, so you'll experience quicker mental processing, which leads to better brain function, reaction times, and decision-making. Your concentration will be better, and so will your memory and mental stamina. You will even experience enhanced intuition. The mindful way to health and well-being will change your life. However, if you choose better health and well-being through mindfulness, it must become a part of your routine. And as we have discussed, some people look upon the practice as a chore. Short mindfulness meditations are required though. While the practice part might seem like a chore, the idea of mindfulness is a simple one. You pay close attention to each experience that is in the present moment, and you allow yourself to be open with your heart in order to create space. This last part probably needs a little explanation. In our purest state of mind, the environment within us is spacious, but as time goes by, we accumulate experiences that create and solidify habits of thinking that are ill-formed and take up space. Practicing mindfulness meditation for just a few weeks begins breaking down the internal formations that once seemed permanent and gives us back our original openness. Therefore, mindfulness is an effective antidote to negative mindsets gained through our experiences, like low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, poor vitality and overall energy, and lack of engagement. If you are already aware of mindfulness techniques, the truths and myths about the practice might have become jumbled because of misinformation. So let us take a few minutes to discern fact from fiction. Mindfulness is all of the following. Mindfulness is a means in which you pay full attention to both your good and bad experiences, is a means to recognize your feelings without them consuming you, is a means to identify your true self so that you are not identifying yourself through your feelings or perceived mistakes. Mindfulness is a means to live in the moment and less in the past and the future, and it is a means to cultivate happiness that suits yourself and everyone in your life. Mindfulness is not the following. Mindfulness is not a state of mystical blessedness or transcendence because it has no religious aspect to it, though it did evolve from a highly spiritual man, the Buddha. Mindfulness is not the process of emptying your mind or stopping your thinking. These are unattainable and not practical. Mindfulness is not a relaxation technique, but it will incidentally relax you. Mindfulness is not an escape from your personality, created by environmental circumstances. In fact, it does the opposite by revealing your true self. Mindfulness is not a way to live life without a plan. You learn to plan in a mindful way. Finally, mindfulness is not a way to forget your past mistakes or trauma. You learn a healthy way to live with mistakes and trauma and use your experiences in a mindful way. Mindfulness changes your sense of who you are in relation to your own life and to other people, and provides you with access to your full potential. It will bring out the fullness of your personal and professional relationships, as well as personal and professional goals. When you become mindful, you enrich your life, and you become more adaptable, skillful, and live an easier existence. You gain a better understanding of self, and challenges will not overwhelm you, because you will mindfully rise to the occasion. On the other hand, when opportunities present themselves, you will welcome them with joy and clarity. Let's begin our first mindfulness practice. I cannot state it enough that if you want all the glorious things that come with mindfulness, practice is crucial, and practice requires repetition. The only way to change your mindset is to practice regularly, and regularly means daily. Although your initial practice has a more limited aim, it provides basic instructions to what mindfulness involves. If thoughts or feelings come into your mind while doing the exercise, be aware of them, but do not dwell on them. Instead, return to your focus and let those thoughts pass by you as if they were leaves in a flowing stream. Do the following. Clear off a table and set a small item on it. The item can be a cup, a water bottle, a salt shaker, or other item readily available. Choose something that is emotionally neutral. Sit down at the table in front of the item with good, upright posture. Look closely at the object for a few minutes and take in everything about it that you can see without touching it or moving it. Do not judge the item, good or bad, and do not consider its utility. Simply gaze upon the object without allowing your mind to interpret it. It isn't easy, but it allows us to be in the real world and meditate mindfully at the same time. Now, while you remain in a still position, close your eyes and focus on the physical sensations you feel. These sensations might include, but are not limited to, the places where your body touches your clothes and the pressure you feel from the chair and the floor. Furthermore, spend a few minutes focusing your mind on the things that you can hear, which might be something simple, like your own breathing, the hum of the refrigerator, the circulation of air from your vents, your neighbor's lawnmower, or a plane in the sky. In addition, consider any smells in the air as you sit with your eyes closed. Then, you will end the exercise and look back on the momentary experience of mindfulness. By focusing on an object and on touch, sounds, and smells, you have given yourself a break from your preoccupations. This is only the beginning of mindful practice. There is much more to it. However, the key piece to mindfulness remains the same. It involves the present moment. It is not that you concentrate on the moment itself, because no one can pin down a moment. What you are actually doing is focusing on the experience, which is your experience and no one else's. In the present, as you remove yourself from the past, the future, and even time itself, you also remove all thoughts and emotions that enter your mind, and you only focus on the actual thing you are doing with relaxed and purposeful attention. In the next episode, we will discuss how to use mindfulness to grow your full potential, how to focus your mind without judgment, and look at ways to end autopilot. Thanks for listening. This is R. Smith. Some people call me Robin. Some people call me Bird. Either way, this has been a Bellfire podcasting production. Until next time, enjoy the moment.